if you followed this channel for any length of time, you'll know that we are huge fans of Matthew Tompkins and his company, TX5, and all his designs that come out of that in the saddle world. Well, this is actually, I was adding it up in the tree today. We just got back from the morning hunt. This is actually my 8th TX5 saddle. I started following Matthew Tompkins well before he even formed his own company, and the first saddle I ever hunted out of from him didn't even have one of his brand logos on it, one of his tags. And you'll see this one doesn't either. Because Matthew was so excited about this new design, he sent me this thing way back in March. It was turkey season. Wanted to get it in my hands, get some feedback, some thoughts from me. And I've been a little remiss in putting this video out, but that's given me time to really get some good definitive thoughts and feedback that I can pass on to you today. I've probably got between 150 to 200 hours. I was adding it up again today. 150 to 200 hours in this particular saddle. We're real excited about it. It is like the thumbnail title says. It's almost the perfect saddle offering from Matthew. I've got a couple of tweaks that I'm going to do to it. We're going to get into that here after the break. But we're going to go into all the details of the Lonestar 2.0 and tell you why I think, yeah, maybe he did almost come out with the perfect saddle. Okay guys, the Lonestar 2.0 from TX5. Let's take this step by step. I'm going to break this into sections for you guys. I'm actually going to, in the lower description down here, I'm going to break it into categories so you can skip to whatever you want to. But we'll take this step by step. And I want to start off with a thing that, you know, why would I make such an audacious claim, such a bold claim that this may be the closest thing to the perfect saddle that I've sat in yet? And I'll tell you exactly why. We'll start off with the biggie. It's the industry's first dual sleeve waist belt. And you'll see what I'm talking about here, especially if I go ahead and turn it inside out. So what we've got here is there's a lower sleeve, set of sleeves here that are aligned along the chassis, the outer chassis of the webbing of the saddle itself. Okay, and that's if you want to take this belt off, you can run it just like a normal saddle, right? In the same position that it would normally be in. As you can see, there's also a second set of, they almost look like ears sticking up. A second set of sleeves come up here, or channels for this waist belt to come in through. And I like to term it, I don't know what other people are calling it, but I like to call it putting it into the high waist position. In other words, you've got the normal or a low waist, or you can run it into the high waist position. And this is my absolute favorite way. This is, I took off my duck pouch and my lineman belt so we can focus on the saddle here. But other than that, I haven't changed it. This is the way I've been running it every night I hunt, every day, every morning. And like I said, I've got, gosh, so many, hundreds of hours of sitting time and leaning time in this thing. And this is the way I've ran it 99% of the time. Because here's what it does for you. A lot of people, you know, there's a lot of people who love single panel saddles, right? There's a lot of people who love two panel saddles. In fact, I just did a video, my last saddle video was on the Buzzard Roost and talking about how comfortable it was. And two panels are extremely comfortable, at least the Buzzard Roost is. I mean, it's a very, very comfortable saddle. I wasn't lying when I talked about, is it the new king of comfort? It's a really comfortable saddle. But you've got people that are kind of firmly entrenched in one of the camps, right? They're either a single panel people or they're two panel people. And it's almost like you've got tree stand people and you've got saddle people. Well, this year has seen more of a blending of those camps, right? You've got saddle people who are standing on tree stands, and we call it a hybrid design, right? I actually talked about that a long time ago when the Trophy Line Mission came out. Talked about a hybrid setup of being able to, you know, it's almost like you're a saddle hunter, but you've almost got a platform underneath you that you can just stand up, turn around on, and shoot if you need to, right? So we've been talking about hybrid setups for a long time. Well, this is almost a hybrid setup in a saddle. And what I mean by that, it's a hybrid between a two panel and a single panel. Because what this does, and we'll show you here, is that I've always been a big advocate. You've seen it on the boards a lot of times. People talk about my saddle's slipping down as I'm walking in, you know, and some people are like, well, you can get around that by packing your saddle in a backpack or something. But if you're going to wear your saddle in, there's been a lot of people complain about, well, it slips down and falls as I'm walking in. Do I need suspenders? I'm like, why would you need suspenders? Just put your belt above your pants belt, right? Just tighten it up above your pants belt. It can't go anywhere. It's not going to fall down. And that's the way I've always walked in. I've never had a problem. And I mean, there's been hunts I've walked over 2 miles through swamps and briars and buckbrush and just all. I've never had my saddle fall down ever because I tightened my saddle belt above my pants belt. It's a no-brainer. But then what do you got to do when you get to hunting height or you get to your tree? We loosen that belt, right? And you slide the saddle down so that it cups your butt more because it, you know, you've pulled it up a little bit higher. And when you're a leaner, especially like me, or I'm sure probably sitters too, you want that maximum coverage up underneath your butt cheeks. You want it down there so that you're getting cradled and supported, and that's what makes the saddle comfortable is when you put it down there like that, right? So you were almost, if you're a single panel guy and you were doing that like I did, you were forced to, well, you weren't forced, but a lot of us did it. We would, you know, tighten it up high on the walk in and then loosen that belt up and move it down as you're getting ready to hunt, right? Well, here's what I love about this. Well, 2 panels obviously took care of that, right? It gives you the back support. You're not going to fall down with it, and it also is low enough to cover you. But you know, there's a lot of fat. There's a lot of material there. A lot of people some people don't want all that with a 2-panel saddle. Well, the great thing about this is you can tighten this waist belt above your pants belt, right? It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to give you a little bit of that lower lumbar, that back support as you're leaning back. I mean, it's not quite like a back band, but it's similar. I mean, you can definitely tell you're getting some support there. And then at the same time, it positions the saddle fabric low enough that it's definitely cupping your rear end and giving you good support and just, you know, all the stuff that you need down there. So, and what that translates to is comfort. That's the bottom line. It's not just security. It's not support. The support is what gives you the comfort. It translates into that. So it's almost like you get 2 configurations in one saddle. You as the user choose. Do you want to run it in the low waist position? Well, run it through these lower channels here, and your belt will be right on top of this chassis on the inside. Obviously, it doesn't cover up the Molle because you're going to be running it on the inside of these channels. Or leave it in the high waist position like I've got, and by doing that, you've almost got a hybrid saddle. Let's go into some of the other things that Matthew has revised and changed a little bit with the change from the original Lonestar to the Lonestar 2.0. With the original one, you'll see that HPR, that stands for Hip Pinch Reduction System, that Matthew came out with. So what is in here is a very semi-solid, it is a solid, it's a Kydex, what Matthew terms or calls a stay. In other words, it's a strip of Kydex in here that it slips in here, and it helps give it support, right? In the original, if you go back and watch my original Lonestar video, I said in a swing set in a playground, I talked about how, you know, the steel divider between, you know, keeps the swing from coming around and pinching your hips. Well, that's the theory of it, and it works largely pretty well, with the exception that, well, you can see, you guys know I hunt a lot. I'm very, very blessed in the time that I get to spend in a tree. And you can see over the years and hunts, see how this is bowed up, and it's really taken on the shape of how the saddle bunches up, and it's kept it from, you know, it did its job, but it's just really kind of, you know, assumed a contorted position, and even this one over here is a little bit that way as well. But you can really see the, you know, the deformation, if you will, of it right here. So, and several people gave that feedback from the original Lonestar. And so what Matthew did was, you can see from the front of the saddle, he's pulled the HPR back and moved it back to where it's more back here in line with the center of your body, as opposed to up here where it's going to scrunch up. You'll also see, and this is something that I like that's really neat here, is he added this webbing and sewed it on around the channel that this Kydex stay goes into. He also secured it really with some really tight Molle webbing here, but this webbing here almost does a little bit like what I talked about on the Buzzard Roost. You can slide it up and down and adjust this a little bit if you want to. And it really helps when you're pulling on that bridge. It's pulling from back here behind and wrapping around that HPR system. And it really kind of keeps it in place. I mean, I've got, do I have as many hours on this saddle as I do that one? I mean, I've hunted for a few years out of that saddle, probably a couple, 3 at least. And I've got one good solid, for the summer, all my demos and practices. I mean, I took this saddle, you guys, if you saw me at the shows in Chattanooga and Michigan at the Mobile Hunters Expo, this was the saddle I had on way back then, before it was even released to the public. So I've got a lot of sits in it. So again, a couple hundred hours, probably getting close to it if I don't. And these stays, this HPR system on both sides looks like it did the day that I got it. So really happy with the differences that makes. Moving or relocating those stays, the HPR system farther back into the saddle, into the seating area, has really accomplished what he was hoping to do with that. Then we'll move on here. Again, some people said that the Viper loops are larger on this model than they were. I've been sitting here comparing them. They're actually about the same size as they were on the previous Lonestar. Now I'm going to grab, I've still got my TX5 Raider here. Now, he had tried to kind of go and make a smaller Viper loop on this one. I wasn't a huge fan. I mean, I'm sure the thought process, well, carabiner's pretty small. I will tell you, I love the large Viper loops. And if you're not familiar with this, I mean, they are the absolute best lineman belts. I mean, they almost stick out like Mickey Mouse ears here if I hold them up like that. And that makes it so nice to find your lineman belt loop in the dark, even if it's not dark. And just being able to find it really easy when you're getting ready to go over a limb or something like that. The fact that they stick out and they're held erect because they're, I remember Matthew talked to me one time. I think it takes 7 different folds of this fabric. They're hard to bend. I mean, you can't scrunch it up from this way. I mean, it's 7 different folds of fabric to make a Viper loop, and that's why they stick out so well. They are by far the best lineman's belt loops of any saddle that I've tried, and I'm well into over number 20 of saddles that I personally owned and hunted with since I began my saddle hunting career. By far the absolute best lineman belt loops out there. Jumping into a little bit more, you'll see I am a huge fan of the TX5 quick draw hanger. If you guys have watched my one sticking videos, where when I get ready to come down, I don't have to stick my one sticking stick in the crook of my elbow. I don't have to hold it. I don't just throw it down. I mean, it's a $360 stick. I don't throw it down on the ground. My stick has the female end to that buckle on it, and I literally clip it on and it hangs right here off my hip as I rappel down. So the reason I point that out is these are an extra add-on. You can add them on at the time of order on the TX5 Custom Gear website, and these loops are specifically made for this gear hanger. You could use them for other things, maybe other kind of accessory things if you want to. There are other companies out there, Genesis 3D, Innovating the Outdoors. They make saddle platform holders, things like that. But yeah, those are a must for me. I love those. You'll see also, if you go back to the original 2.0, you'll see there's one row of Molle webbing here. And of course, here you'll see what I just explained here. I've had Matthew add those to every one of my saddles. But this one row of Molle, Matthew actually has 2 rows here on the back, and then there's like I said, there's the gear hanger systems down here on the bottom. So the 2 rows gives you a little bit more options. Molle, a lot of people go crazy and love Molle. I love the fact that he actually brings it a little bit more far forward on the 2.0 than he did the original one, meaning that you can, if you're wearing or running a dump pouch, it situates it and brings it around more forward, so you don't have to reach behind you as much. And then you guys will see that I get this question. This is probably one of my most asked questions that I get a lot of times when people are hitting me up about TX5 information is, what do you like? Do you like the expand or do you like the stretch? Well, you'll see, and I've got more of them hanging up over here. I'm looking at off camera on. I always get mine in the stretch version. So they don't stretch much, but they give, there's just enough give there that you can kind of feel yourself sink into it ever so slightly. But I like the stretch. I've got an expand. I actually passed it on to my oldest son. He's hunting out of it tonight, probably on his way home now. But yeah, so I'm just not a huge pleated saddle expand fan, to be honest with you. I really like this design. So for those of you who always ask me, what do you like? Do you like the expand? Do you like the stretch? Stretch by far. He did make the leg straps removable on this, so if you wanted to, you could you could thread one of these straps through this little buckle here, unthread one of the Cobra buckles, which is an extra option if you want. I think they come with G hooks. I'm a Cobra buckle fan. I have always been a Cobra buckle fan. But once you unthread that, you can actually completely remove the leg straps. I'm a leg strap guy. Always have been. I love the security and the comfort of just knowing that everything is cupped. It's not going anywhere. I'm not sliding out of it. A lot of guys don't care about leg straps. I am a leg strap guy, and we'll get into that here in just a second as we close out this section. Okay, let's talk about one of the other main differences between my old Lonestar and my new Lonestar 2.0. And it's one of the things I alluded to out on the deck out there as I was sitting there. And I said, there's one little thing, maybe that I want to add to it that I could fine tune and refine this and make it a little bit better. And it's the fact that, well, you guys know that my old Lonestar obviously had an openable bridge. Well, guys, this is a testament to how much respect and everything else you want to add to it that I have for Matthew, because he made a request of me that he goes, hey, I'm not going to offer an openable bridge anymore. Honestly, too much liability. I just don't want to do it. Your video's already out there on how to make an openable bridge. If people want to buy my saddle and follow your video instructions, more power to them. So Matthew asked me, he goes, hey, can you leave this bridge in place the way I sent it to you, and not making it openable until after you shoot the review? And so, as many hours as I have on this saddle, that means all of those hunts, and it's a bunch of them. I mean, you look at the bridge here, this bridge is, that's with the same carabiner that I've hunted off of for 5 years or so. And so it's not just paint wearing off the carabiner. I have put this saddle to its paces, and every single one of those hunts, I have stepped through this bridge. There ought to be some shocked faces out there on the other end of the TV screen or computer or iPhone or whatever, because you guys know that I firmly believe, I'm not going to back off my belief for anyone. I think stepping through a bridge is the stupidest thing in the saddle hunting world. I really do. And but Matthew, you owe me. So this is how the bridge comes. Matthew runs a double scaffold knot on this side tied to the bridge here. And the purpose of that is so that hopefully it would be easier to adjust than a normal one. Well, I will tell you, it probably would have been if I would have adjusted it up and down every few sits or whatever. I'm really comfortable with my bridge pulling from the center of the bridge loops every single time. Once I get it there, I really don't adjust it. Now you could use this webbing to adjust some pull points. You could move your the scaffold knot up or down the bridge loops. It's a great system, but once I find where I want it, which typically for me again is right in the middle, which is again why it's never bothered me. People go, well, you run an openable bridge with a carabiner, you can't adjust it. It's going to pull from the middle of the bridge loop. I don't need to. So you'll see, I'm going to probably have to cut that off to make this one openable. But yeah, it's cinched down tight. But anyway, Matthew sends it with a double scaffold knot over here. And then it does have a really nice, again, I haven't, once I get my bridge, it is moving, but once I get my bridge where I want it, I don't adjust it in and out hardly at all. I run about an 18-inch long bridge. It's pretty short for most people's standards, and that's just what I do. It gives me more, shooting room as I pivot from side to side. But as soon as this video is over, probably by the time I wake up and go hunting tomorrow morning, this will have an openable bridge on it. So that's one of my big things. And here's the thing that I think is going to fix that. So if you notice it, if you run your waist belt in the high waist position like I have all these hunts, all these times I've set a tree, you'll notice here that there's a little bit of a memory that's developed here where, see all these lines and shadows, if you can see that in the belt here, and they're on both sides, right? So it's developed a little bit of a memory of crinkling up here, because as I step through the saddle, as I pull it up against my thighs and waist and all the way up against the fabric, what happens is this waist belt is a little prone to rolling up and bunching up as you pull it up. Not a huge deal if you remember all the time to reach in there and smooth this waist belt out. You want it flat. You want off that surface area. You want your pressure dissipated against the complete pressure, complete totality of this waist belt, right? Well, if it's all bunched up and you went from a, I don't know what that is, 1.5 inches or so, maybe 2 inches wide waist belt to, if you bunch it up and you scrunch all that pressure up into a 1/4 inch spot or so, you're creating what we call a hot spot. And a lot of people do that mistake. They mistake hip pinch for hot spots. And a lot of times the saddles I've ran, continually, that when I get to choose what saddle I'm doing, I'm not doing a review on one or something. If I'm grabbing a saddle out of my own arsenal, out of my own inventory, it's going to be, a Buzzard Roost or 99% of the time it's a TX5, let's be honest. If I feel what I'm thinking might be hip pinch, I know there's a darn good chance it's really what I've done is I've wadded up my jeans or my pants or my hunting pants or something have gotten, there's a fold in them, and there's more likely it's a hot spot rather than hip pinch. And so I did notice that as I was pulling up on this, and a lot of times I'd get in a tree and I'm like, man, it feels a little uncomfortable over here on my hip, and I would take the time to kind of ease the pressure off of it and put my hand and smooth out that belt. I'm like, the belt was wadded up a little bit again, right? And that was creating that pinch point or that hot spot. So here's what I know. As soon as I change out this bridge, which I'm going to do immediately after this video, as soon as I change out this bridge and convert it to my openable bridge concept, so I don't have to pull up through it and roll that belt up against my waist or my pants, as soon as it's openable, all I'll have to do is grab the saddle and put it around this way and wrap it around, and it'll fold. That belt will fold flat around. There's no rolling, no pulling up. That's going to do away with that little minor inconvenience of having to really make sure and ascertain or assure myself that it's flat and smoothed out right there. So that is the little thing, the little inconvenience that I mentioned out there on the deck. That I'm going to improve this just a little bit. It's through the openable bridge. For I love that for a lot of reasons, but it's going to really help with not getting that belt pinched like you can see it's prone to do right here when you pull it up on yourself. So anyway, enough on that. Matthew is not going to send it out with an openable bridge. He's already told me that. He's like, dude, you've got a video out there. So follow the link right up here. You'll see the link right now if you're on a computer or a TV or whatever. Follow that link. It's going to walk you through step by step how to create an openable bridge. Very simple. We'll just untie this, tie a carabiner on with a simple scaffold knot. I'll walk you through step by step so you'll be absolutely sure and safe that it's done correctly. But that's going to make this tremendous. It's going to put it over the top, and maybe it might be the perfect saddle after that. Okay guys, let's wrap this up with a couple final things. One is, obviously, you guys have seen throughout the whole video, Matthew made this with fabric that I sent him, my stealth fabric that I actually make my stealth packs out of, that you guys have seen and are available through Eastern Woods Outdoors, that are purpose-built for one sticking. You can use it for multiple sticks, but anyway, that fabric is what my saddle is made out of. If you so choose that you have a favorite fabric or a favorite camo pattern that's not available as one of the stock options on TX5 custom gear. Say you're a Mossy Oak Bottomland fan or something like that. If you send Matthew half a yard is what it requires to make a saddle. This Lonestar 2.0, half a yard. If you send him half a yard of fabric, he will make it. Now that's going to incur the upcharge. I think the basic Lonestar is $349.99. You know, you're getting into the $379, which is fine. You can get some of the other upgrades like the ADF Raptor waist belt, the Cobra leg buckle straps, the gear hanger loops, things like that. If you send him some clothes or a garment item like that he's got to rip apart and tear apart, that's going to be an additional cost, because obviously that, you know, you're that's eating into his time and everything like that. If you can go to a store and buy a roll of something, if that's your option, that's what you want, that would be the preferable way to go. So anyway, just want to touch on that real quick. That you know, put that when you order your saddle, and you get to the shipping and the payment information, everything, about step number 3, I believe it is, on his website, there's a free text box of a notes section you can put in there or call them up. They're awesome people there, obviously, but there's a free text box there that you can write a whole lot of stuff in and kind of ask him what you want, leave your phone number, all that stuff like that. So anyway, that's that. And then let's close out on this, because I know a lot of people saw me do the Buzzard Roost video. Now you've sat through and watched this video. What is the huge difference between a Buzzard Roost and the TX5 Lonestar 2.0? Well, here's the cool thing, the commonalities and the similarities. Both ran by awesome individuals. Benny Gregoire and his partners, and you know, Matthew Tompkins and his team, some of the best in the industry, right? The saddles, some of the best in the industry. Why, you've alluded to the fact that, man, you're picking, this is the saddle that you went with most of the year, and you're right. Here's the difference, is what I'm holding right here, is the leg straps. I mentioned, I make no bones about it, I'm a leg strap guy. And as comfortable as the Buzzard Roost is, and it is all that and a bag of chips, as they say, it's very comfortable. But the leg straps are just a little wonky on me. They keep hitting me in the thigh instead of up here in the crotch. And when you're walking in, or even after a while sitting in a tree, and I go back and forth from a leaning position to a sitting position, those leg straps, you know, that was just the deal breaker for me. The good thing about it is, because I've got a relationship with Benny, and you know, he's an awesome dude. We've texted each other back and forth, and I mean, I was just blunt with him. I'm like, dude, your saddle is freaking awesome, but we got to do something about those leg straps. You know what? There are people in the industry that would have balked at that. They would have been like, oh, I've got a really good product. I'm not changing it, whatever. You know what Benny did? He goes, how can we make it better? And we started dialoguing. We started talking back and forth, and he's already working on it. He's actually in the process now of sending me a revised version, and we're going to pin up some different alternative options and things. So stick around for that. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, that's the big thing, of one of the big reasons why I love the Lonestar 2.0. It's just, this one, you know, it's darn near perfection. So anyway, guys, I hope that all this information has helped you. Hopefully, it hasn't been too much of an information overload, but you know, I've got a ton of time on this, and I wanted to convey it to you and give you some personal thoughts. So if you're on the fence about a saddle here or there or whatever, or you just want a darn good saddle, man, this you cannot go wrong with the TX5 Lonestar 2.0. It's close to perfection.